So welcome to week 6. In week 6, we now move on to our next major concept of skills that we're going to learn around relating tables. We've at this point only been dealing with one table, and it's either been the cyber chase or the long list. So this week what we're going to do is have you, and this is what I'm going to suggest you do, is first take this first step as a challenge, right? Here's the instruction. I already have them up here. And go ahead and pause this video and see if you can work through, these five steps, right? Now I'm going to show you my output in a minute, but I suggest pause here, set that up, and then we'll come back and I'll just show you my setup. And so anyway, pause here. Okay, so you might take note if you actually didn't try the challenge, because that is part of learning. And this week we're going to do a little pre-learning. And anytime you can take what you've been exposed to and get more experience with it, it is generally helpful. Okay, so here's what it should look like if you followed, and hopefully my instructions were good. I try to do a better job of reviewing them, but this is also why I show it. So this new folder relating should be at the same level. Inside that folder should be your query file, and you should have copied your database file, and you do need to copy it. Do not copy it from querying, because this is actually a new database file. Even though it's the same name of what we were using before, it is only the same in the name, and you'll see that in a minute. Okay. Let's see, what else did I do? I actually went through and did a little more update to my query file. I got rid of a lot of the comments, and I have it here. So this is the setup, and I ended up putting a print just of before and after. Okay, and then I have my terminal with my relating open, and then I have my bash with the relating folder. So I have those things ready to go. And one of the things I do before I start, okay, is I do this. I go in and I grab that command just to see if I have everything set up. So like here, I'm creating a proof of work for DS, which is data set, because I'm actually going to show you how I would approach a new data set, because for us, in a sense, this is a new data set. So what I do is come down here to bash. I would run that, see if everything runs. I should see a new file, a blank file, so it is good to go, and it is DS. Okay, so it's the first thing I would do just to make sure everything is showing up. Let's see. Oh yeah, so actually, my bad. I had these here, but I didn't have them commented out. Okay. So, and by the way, in the future, if you ever wanted to select however many lines and control /, it will then whatever series, and this is a very common thing we're going to see, is writing more and more queries here. Okay. All right. So now that we're there, let's see. I think let's see if I got everything done. We changed, right? And we have the new file. You've started the terminals, right? So now you're with me coding along. So the thing I would want to show you first is in this file, I want you to do a command called tables, okay? And then we'll do one called schema. Now we can do these on the terminal within the SQLite 3 as well, okay? And these are great things to have in a file. And this is why I call this the DS file, the data set, because we're looking at a new data set, right? So the first thing I would do here is I'd go ahead and go back here. I'd use my up arrow. I'd run that. Now notice this time, and you'll kind of start seeing me do some of this, where instead of writing it on the terminal, I actually wrote it in the file, and then I could copy and paste it right into here if I wanted to. Now this is something I'm going to probably recommend, especially as we move into subqueries and especially as we move into joins. And you have not been introduced to those concepts, but here's the deal. Some of you, I suspect, are already doing this, right? Because it's like, this is a much better editor. So I can, instead of having to repeat myself, which, by the way, the reason I probably haven't talked about this before now is that it is just good, the more time behind keyboard if you've never done this kind of work, right? So I could do this of one of two ways. I could come down here and I could hit tables, and now I see I have that many tables, and could do schema. And schema is actually the way the tables are set up and related. And this is the thing we're going to learn this week is about relating. Okay. But what I really want is I want this data that I'm probably going to reference several times to be in my DS file. Okay. What happened there? Why did it already get there? I must have run it. I must have copied. Oh, I must. Anyway, I don't remember running it yet. I was actually going to go do that now. Hold on. Yeah, I don't remember. So all I'm going to do here is you don't have to do this part, right? But I don't remember running it. So I was talking. That's what happened. All right. So again, here's my, I wonder if I changed my out over here. Did I run? No, I sure didn't. Okay. Standard out. But in here is my returning. Okay. So I'm going to run this again. And now my DS file has the tables that we are now looking at. So where we had long lists before, right? Look, we have 7 tables. So what this is then is each table, this is the SQL that is written to create those tables. Now it says if table not exist. Don't worry about this syntax. What you just want to know now is just what kind of columns are in each of those tables. Okay, so that's the thing that's really nice to have here, right? So now I have my my data set proof of work, or just getting to know my data set. But there's another piece I would do here. And again, we'll talk about some of this as we move forward, because this is what Carter's going to introduce you to as far as conceptually. He does a really good job of going over the concepts of relating tables, because this is a definitely in most real world examples, you mostly never have a single table database. It's almost always a multiple table database. Okay, and so just and I had it up here because this is also the other thing you're going to see him talk about, which is these ERDs, entity relationship diagrams, right? So this gives you a visual on this, and this idea of how we relate them is really good to understand, and you're going to get exposed to that, right? But here's one of the things I do. I do look at the ERD just to get an idea about how they relate. So in this case, let's say authors relate to books. One author can have many books. One book can have many authors, okay? Because it could have more than one. It could have multiples. And then authors wrote books. So in this case, this diagram does not show us all the tables that we have. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but in our tables we have 7. Okay, so this is one thing I think that's not. I'm highlighting it here because I think when Carter talks about it, it's not always clearly defined that this right here is actually what we call, handling a many-to-many relationship. Okay, so these are additional tables. It says wrote here, but really it's authored, and you'll see that as we move through the example that we're about to do. So let's do one other thing, and we'll kind of end this one and pick it up on the next one. So the other thing I do, so now what I would do here is I would comment out those two, okay, because now that I don't want to run them again. And what I like to do is actually go in and run some basic queries on the tables I want to look at. And for the example I'm going to show you today, we're going to look at authored, books, and authors. Okay, so these are the 3 tables because I want us to find based on a book. And this is kind of where Carter's going to end up for us in this week. So we're kind of starting where you're going to end to give you an example. Okay, so here's what I would do. I would do select, right, star from, in this case, I'm going to do authors, right? And really, that's all I want to see. I just want to see all the fields that are in there, okay? So now in my relating down here, I'm going to do a clear, shell, clear. There we go. I just want to make sure that's not updating that file. Looks like it's not. Okay, I'm going to drop that for just a minute. So in here, I want to look at, oh, so here's what I want to do. I want to limit 10, okay? And I'm going to do select star from, in this case, books, right? Limit 10. I'm going to do star from, by the way, syntax and doing and following the standards is important, okay? Authored, limit 10, okay? Now, these are pretty easy queries, but here's the thing. If you're tempted to write queries in your query file, one of the things that will happen is if you just go straight to proof of work without making sure they work, you may get some weird output in your proof of work file. So that's why when you're, again, I would just to make sure. Okay, this look good. Oh yeah. Now on here, I forgot dot mode box. Okay, and then I'd up arrow again. Okay, look. So now we have some authors. Right now, I only limited to 10. I know there's many more in there. We could actually do a count to get a count of that, but I can see these columns then correspond to, and I'm going to bring this back, right? These here. Now, we're going to talk about keys. He's going to talk about keys in this in what you're about to get into, but I'm just showing you, right? So I would do the next one. Now I'm going to look at books. So just show me the first couple just to get an idea. Okay, so I'm going to maybe back off so I can see. Okay, so I got an ID. In the books, I have an ISBN number, a title, several other columns. Okay, so now I've taken a look at authors and books, and if I wanted to find an author of a specific book, like whale, right? In this case, it gives me the ID of the book, it gives me the publisher, but it doesn't give me the actual author, right? And this is the idea of having tables that have an entity that are then have that separated data based on their relationship to each other. Again, back to here, right? One author can have many books, one book can have many authors, and because it's a many-to-many relationship, we have this intermediate table. It's called, they are giving this English, like authors can write or wrote books, or books are written by authors. But when we're looking at the data itself, we start to see, and again, this takes a little bit getting used to because I'm now going to do this authored table. Okay, so let's go here. So now, right? So this is where it's like, okay, in this authored table, we're joining together. Now, join actually means something specific when we get to where we're going to head to, ultimately. But here's what you can know. In order for us to know which author wrote which book because of their type of relationship, we have to have this file that ties them together in a sense. So author 23 wrote book 1. Author 13 wrote book 2. And this is their IDs. Now, this is also where you'll start to learn about these primary keys, okay? And notice how this table, authored, has 2 foreign keys. Important, okay? We'll come back to you again. You're getting introduced to concepts, but this is the idea. So notice how the author table only has a primary key, not a foreign key. Okay, the books table actually has a primary key and a foreign key. Okay, all right, again, these are just topics you're going to learn, but this is defining how these relationships are handled as far as part of the data. All right, so for this first video, now that I have these in here, right, now I'm going to go ahead and run my proof of work. Okay, I'm going to have these, but what I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and change over here to in this case A, right? So I'm going to leave because I want this file to stay intact because you may want to refer back to this file later. Let me see if there's anything else I want to do here. I've commented those out. I've got that good. I've run all 3. I know they run, so good. So now I should have another proof of work for my attendance. So I'd come over here, and then I would run Good. So now I have my second proof of work that should identify those tables in case I want to look at them. All right. So we're going to pause here. Your commit message for this one will be video 1. Okay. So go ahead and do your get workflow, right, for video 1, and then we'll pick it up on the next one.